Hi folks, I'm Matt and welcome to my epic review of an epic game, Twilight Imperium. In this video we'll be talking about two strategy cards, 4 and 5. Here you are. Alright, continuing our talks through the strategy cards here, I'm going to show you number 4 here. It's either production or logistics. If you have the base game, you're going to have logistics here. And the primary ability is receive 4 command counters from your reinforcements. So that's real nice. So you get 4 of these puppies that you can put, anywhere you want. You want extra ships, you want extra commands or strategy allocations. That's really cool. But what about the secondary ability of this card? It says you may spend 1 influence to receive command counters from your reinforcements. You receive 1 command counter for every 3 influence you spend. So it's nice. Other players can get more counters by spending influence. So if you need some more extra movements or more strategy allocations or more fleets in your fleet supply, this would be a chance where you could get that. This is in the base set here. This one here is in the first expansion. The primary ability says immediately build units into one of your systems containing 1 or more friendly space docks, receiving 2 additional resources in which to build. Even if you have activated the system already, building units here do not activate the system. So what it's talking about is, let's say that I have a planet and I have a space dock there. Now, if I've already activated that planet to build, let's say I built a carrier and maybe 2 fighters, okay? Well, I can't activate it again later on, or during the next round, I can't build more on there because I already activated the last round, and you can't activate the same system twice within the same round. So I have to wait till the end of this round before I can activate it again. But once I've activated it, that's where it stays. However, if I have production, then I can actually build here again if I need to. And then I get a +2 in resources. So maybe I want a dreadnought. It usually costs me 5, but right now if I get it, it costs me 3. Or maybe I just want a free cruiser, right? Because they only cost 2, and I can get that one for free. So that's really awesome there. Let's look at the secondary ability here. It says, hey, spend 1 command counter from your strategy allocation area to immediately build up to 3 units in one of your systems containing 1 or more friendly space docks. Even if you have activated the system already, build units here, it does not activate the system. Okay, so it's kind of like the first one, but you have to pay for that ability. But here's the other option here. Let's say I haven't even activated the system yet. Well, if I have production, then without even activating the system, I can build units and then save 1 of my command counters for something else. Maybe I want to move them into a different area. Like I didn't have any there, and I was thinking, man, I got to build some there on my next round. But when I build some, I can't deploy them immediately. Well, if I got production, and if I did the secondary ability, or if I had it and did the primary ability, then I wouldn't have to use a command counter. I could just build everything I wanted there, and then the next time, use one of my command counters and start moving them out. That's really awesome. All right, so that's number 4 there. I want to go into number 5, which is trade. Okay? Trade goods. That's what we're going to talk about here. There's 1 from each expansion and then the base one. Let me go over the base one first. It says you can either choose A or B on this card. A says immediately receive 3 trade goods, then receive trade goods from all your active trade agreements. Well, let me back up here. What are trade goods? Well, I keep telling you about trade good. Trade goods go right here, and they're these little things. These are basically money. They can count as influence. They can count as resources. They can count as bribes for other players. If you have the expansion, they give you ones that represent, 3 trade goods altogether, so you won't have so many of these all up in there. But you put them in here, and that's how much trade goods you have. This is commodity. This is how money flows, man. You can get stuff, buy stuff, use your trade for everything. Trade's very important to the game here. So in this case, you could receive 3 trade goods and receive stuff from your trade agreements. What are trade agreements? Well, these are trade agreements here. Trade agreements that you give out to people. So if I give you this, you're going to get 2. If I give you this, you're going to get 1. So when the trade agreement activates, this person gets 1, this person gets 2. So every time you have trade pop up, you're going to get trade there. And of course, everyone has 2 trade agreements they can give out to any of the players they want to. And here's how it goes, though. It says, finally, open trade negotiations among all players. You must approve all new trade agreements. So if I'm trying to make a trade agreement with someone else here, this person, whoever controls this card, has to approve my trade with so-and-so, even though they may not even be involved in that trade, but they're the only ones who can approve it during this round because they hold the trade strategy card. Very, very cool. Or you can skip all that and go with B. It says all trade agreements are canceled. Return all trade contracts to their owners. Why would you want to cancel them? Well, let's say that maybe I had this yucky trade agreement of 1. I don't like this. Someone else had one of a 2, and they're my enemy. I don't want them having more trade goods. In fact, these 2 guys who are attacking me on both sides are my enemies. I don't like that they have these great trade agreements and I don't have them. So what I can do, if I have this card, I can break off those trade agreements and I can stop them from acquiring more trade. The secondary ability that everyone else can do on this card says spend 1 command counter from your strategy allocation area to receive trade goods from all active trade agreements. So yeah, if I want to activate, get my trade, get some moolah, I spend the command counter from the strategy allocation area, and I get additional trade. So that's the first one. Now if you have the expansion, you have trade 2. And this one says receive 3 trade goods or cancel up to 2 trade agreements. It says you may not cancel hasten trade agreements. We'll talk about the Haitians later on. But anyway, that's one option. You have this one down here. It says then all players, after all that happens, then all players receive trade goods from their active trade agreements. Players who are not an active player receive 1 fewer total trade goods. And I'll talk about this when we go about the round, but during the round, you may choose to pass. If you choose to pass, then you are out of the round for that game. You can't take advantage of anything. Now, if trade hasn't been played yet, I mean, if it's already inactive, you have nothing to worry about because they've already used it. But if they haven't used it and you bowed out of the game too early, you still would get your trade, but you would get 1 less trade if you were out of the game for that round. All right, anyway, it says finally, open all trade negotiations among all players. You must approve all trade agreements. So very similar to trade 1 is trade 2. So if you have the second expansion, you will get trade 3. And this one's incredible here. It says open trade negotiations among all players. All players then receive trade goods from any active trade agreements. Okay, we know that one. But let's look at these other 2. It says, then each player pays 1 trade good to each of their mercenaries, or they discard them. And then finally, you may recruit one of the top 2 mercenary cards from the deck. Wait, what? What is mercenaries? These are mercenary. They're mercenary cards. So mercenary deck. There's 16 in here. They even come with little pieces, with their character that you would use to put them on a board here, and as you see here, they have, it says ground, so if they're on the ground there, they would fit there. If they're in space, you'd flip it over, and as you see here, it says space, so then they would be out in space. Now, if they're in space and they're fighting a war and they want to be part of the invasion battle, you would just flip them over and they would invade that planet. We'll talk about that, how that works, when we get to warfare. But there are 16 mercenaries you can pick. And of course, if you have trade 3, you will pick the top 2, look at them, pick one, return the other one to the bottom one of the deck. Now, every round you keep these mercenaries, they cost 1 trade good. They can do some great things for you, but they cost 1 trade good. If you have a mercenary, you've been keeping them on for a few rounds, but you're like, man, I'm tired of paying 1 trade good, you may discard them to the bottom of the deck. Now, mercenaries cannot control a planet. They can't capture a planet on their own. You have to have some of your forces with them to conquer that planet. So they can fight beside other ground troops, but they just can't fight and defend the planet on their own. If all the ground troops are dead and your mercenary is the only one left on the planet, that planet reverts back to neutral. You don't own that planet anymore because, of course, he is for hire. He's not loyal to you. So you need to have at least a ground troop there for them to fight on the ground there. Or if not, they're skipping town, man. They don't care about you. They're mercenaries. Now, in space, if you have mercs in space, they do count toward your fleet supply. So you need to make sure you have enough if you're carrying this guy, because he goes on his own. He doesn't get carried by a carrier. He has his own basically ship. It's just a 1+, it's just him. He can't ferry around any leaders. Like if you had a leader and you want him to stay with the merc because the merc seems pretty safe, he can't do that. He can't hold on to a leader. He flies solo. But anyway, he does count toward the fleet supply when you have him in space, so make sure you have enough to fit everyone, plus your mercenary in that hectagon. Now, the one cool thing that they can do is during battles, they can evade. They can do some evasion tactics here. So let's say during a battle, and I'll get to battles later on, but let's say during a battle, everyone's taking a hit here. Well, someone rolls and they get 4 hits. So you can go, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Ooh, geez, that's going to be 4 people I'm destroying. I'm going to let him take one of these hit this combat round. And what they have is an evasion thing. And it's on their card, and I'll show you their cards in a minute. But if they roll the die and they roll that number or higher, then they evade and you missed shooting them. And so basically it saves one of your ships. And they can do that every round. Or in the case, let's say there's, you know, well, let me see. Let me do this here. Let's say you have this left, okay? And there's 4 hits, okay? This one's destroyed. You can only take 1 hit. This took the 2nd hit, and it's damaged now. Does it take the 3rd and 4th? No. You can assign those to your mercenary. Now, if your mercenary does not evade them, of course the mercenary is dead. They are removed from the game. But they can maybe evade it twice, if that's the case in that round. You can assign the rest of them to your mercenaries. So mercenaries in space are really good. They're really good on the ground too, because they can really help out, but they're really awesome in space as well. So let's look at a few of our mercenaries here. The first one is Blake Stryker. He has an evasion of 6. In space, he's a 5. Ground, he's a 7. Movement is a 2. It says, when you win a space battle in which this mercenary participated, you gain a trade goods. That's really nice. He basically earns his keep. Next one is Boardgame. Evasion is 6. Space battle 6. Ground is 8. And movement is a 3. Yeah, some of these mercenaries can move pretty fast. It says your cost of purchase technology is reduced by 1. That's really cool. Sarah Crane is evasion is 7 or higher, 6 in space, 6 on the ground, 3 in movement. It says your cost to purchase command counters from the strategy cards is reduced by 1. Oh, okay, so Sarah Crane helps you out there. Mirag is evasion of 6, space is 6, ground is 5, movement is 2. And it says, when this mercenary is destroyed, you may assign 1 hit to any unit participating in this battle. So usually, and again, we'll get to this when we talk about warfare later on, the person who is being attacked, they're the ones who assign the hits. But if they destroyed your mercenary, you get to assign 1 hit to anyone you want. So you see their destroyer is on the rocks. You want to go ahead and just get rid of it before they get rid of anything else. Here we have 52N6, or as I like to call him, 52N6. He's 7 in space, 7 on the ground, 2 in movement. It says, at the start of the battle, you may choose 1 technology. The enemy cannot use that technology during battle. Ooh, vicious, vicious. Here is Defrin. Evasion's a 7. Space battle is 9. Times 2 means he gets to roll 2 die and see if he can get 9 or higher to get a hit. Ground, he's an 8. Movement, he's a 2. And it says at the end of this strategy phase, you may give this mercenary to another player to trade strategy cards with that player. Limit once per round. So let's say you had maybe 6 and I had 5 or whatever, and we got into a battle and I say, hey, look, you need a mercenary. You've been talking about mercenaries. I'll give you this mercenary if you'll trade strategy cards with me. Hey, that may just be an extra tactic, an extra layer to the game right there. You got Fail Ray, evasion's a 7, space is 5, ground 6, 3 in movement. It says at the start of the battle, draw 1 action card. Whoa, really nice. Here's Hipcook. Evasion's a 7, space 6, ground 7, movement 3. When this mercenary would be destroyed, you may instead destroy a friendly fighter in the system. So like I said, if you assign one of those hits, 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm going to assign one of the hits, or maybe 3 hits. Let's say it was just 3. Let's do that. So we do 1, 2, and I was going to take my mercenary, this mercenary here, to get a hit. If they failed to do their evasion roll, well, then I'll just destroy this one because I still want to keep my mercenary. So that's really neat. You got Kevlik, evasion's an 8. Ground and space battle is a 5. Movement is, of course, a 2. It says at the start of the battle, destroy 1 enemy fighter or ground force. Wow, that could really help you in invasions, especially if they have only 1 ground troop down there, or 2. It really would help you there on the ground. Crevel is evasion of 6, space and ground battle is a 6, and movement is a 2. It says at the start of the battle, you may deal 1 hit to a participating enemy mercenary or ship of your choice. So automatically you get to score a bonus hit on one of the enemy's ships there. That would be imperative. That would be really awesome. You have No Lad. Evasion, a 7. 6 times 2 in space, meaning they get to roll 2 die. See if they didn't get 2 hits maybe. 6 on the ground, 2 in movement. It says capacity of 1. What does that mean? That means that they can actually carry either a ground force or one of your fighter units if you want them to. That is kind of cool there. I really like the versatility of all these mercenaries here. But wait, that's not all of them. We got Runa, evasion of 4, space 5, ground 9, movement 2. It says during each round of the space battle, reduce the number of hits scored by your opponent by 1, minimum number of 1. Wow, so that your opponent gets less hits on you. Here's Relat, evasion's a 6, space 8, ground 7, 3 is movement. This mercenary can be used as a PDS unit when on a planet. So on a planet, if you don't have a PDS unit, you can use a Relat the same as you would use a PDS cannon. Woo! Another person who'd be great on the ground. Then you got Sagra. Evasion's a 5. Space and ground is a 7. Movement's a 2. It says at the start of the battle, you may spend a trade good to build a ground force or fighter in the system. It will participate in the battle. So you can get another +1 in combat if you need to make some, on-the-fly improvements there. So Sagra, very cool. Here's Yursik. He's evasion is 6, space is 5, ground 7, movement 3. This mercenary may move through systems containing other enemy ships. So if you want this mercenary to get to you, remember that's movement 3, this is a fast one, then he can go through other opponents, without having to stop and wage war with them. And there's nothing the other opponents can do to stop him. So he can really get to someone in the nick of time if you need him to. So he travels through everyone and pretty quick if you need an extra mercenary. And then finally is Tugar. Evasion is 6, space is 6, ground is 7, movement is a 2. It says at the start of the battle, you may look at your opponent's hand of action cards and choose 1 to discard. Yo! That is horrible. All right, so those are the mercenary cards here. Now, on the bottom of trade 3 here, the secondary ability, this is what everyone else can do. It says, spend 1 command counter from your strategy allocation area and break a trade agreement between any 2 other players and gain 1 trade good. So if I want to break a trade agreement with any 2 other players, I can break their agreement and I even get a trade good. So I actually screwed my opponent and benefited from it, and all it cost me was a command counter from my strategy allocation area. Again, I love it. So there you have it. That is trade. So strategy card number 4, production, logistics. Those are good cards. You're going to get that strategy card throughout the game. That one's one that gets picked up, frequently. As for 5, trade. The first time I played it, we only had the first base game, and so trade got ignored a lot of the time. I mean, it did get picked up when there was enough bonus counters on it. Of course, it's worth your time to pick up any strategy card when it has bonus counters. But it wasn't really a necessity to have that card throughout the game. It was like, well, if it's convenient or if I don't have anything else to pick, yeah, I'll go ahead and pick 5. They tweaked it a little bit in the first expansion, and then the second expansion, man, they perfected it. Trade 3 is awesome. Bringing in that aspect of mercenaries was a great idea. Because mercenaries can do so much. And so there's another reason on top of trade. I love how they tied aspect of the game into one of the strategy cards and kind of gave extra value to that strategy card. Not that number 5 was always invaluable, but it wasn't as important as, say, I don't know, half the deck. But now, yeah, it does have a special ability because of those mercenaries. And playing with the mercenaries are really, really cool. All right, folks, that's it for this video. See you next time.